we hated League of Legends more than anything in life.
I don't like that at all. I think that's lame.
You can tell I haven't done the jungle in a while because I'm deliberately holding my swear word. I can't swear, so...
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the jungle with Ginny, Medic, Cubby, and Broxah. The first week of the LEC Summer Split is up on us, but first of all, before we start heading into that discussion, let's talk about the insane changes to LoL esports that have literally just been announced, because I am trying not to lose my mind, but I want to start talking about the fact that there's now going to be 3 international tournaments. This calendar, Medic, is looking so packed.
Yeah, it's actually absurd. Everything's moving back a little bit after the first tournament, which will be based after Winter Split. So in our current format, that would be about, I mean, when did Winter end? Like February, March sort of time. Yep. And then you have a 6-day long tournament, as far as I understand it, with the 5 best teams from each region competing, with Fearless Draft for every region in the first split of the year. I will say, the 5 best teams from each region is kind of exciting, but also it feels like a little bit of a throwaway international. Like, if I just say, okay, well, we have G2, we have, let's say G2 didn't win Winter. Let's say it was like Mad Lions. You have Mad Lions, you have Cloud9, you have JDG, T1, and then you have the team from, is it CBLOL, I guess, is the 5th major region, right? Like the South American area. Is that correct? I think so, right?
I think so,
anyway,
yeah. I'm going to double check.
You have a 5th team joining them, right? Is that an exciting tournament? Or does it feel a little bit like a Rift Rivals? Right? Our team's going to be very invested in playing this tournament. It's very dependent on format, because if you have a lot of best of 3s between these teams, that can be exciting. But if it's just like NA plays EU, that's kind of okay. Say NA plays LPL, LCK plays EU, and the 5th team kind of just sits on the side and waits for a bye or something. That's not that exciting. Everyone's just waiting for LCK LPL again, right? So the first international tournament for me is so dependent on what the format is and how it's structured for it to be a cool tournament. Otherwise, I think it very quickly falls off into a cool 6 days of league, you know? Yeah.
I do also think you need to remember that Rift Rivals was actually pretty cool in the beginning. Like, when Rift Rivals was an actual competitive tournament, it was nice. But it, like, I was part of 3 different iterations. The first one was like mega try hard. Like, all the teams from NA and EU were going ham. The second one was similar, but then eventually it became this fun thing where I think we were even playing like just random 1v1s or 2v2s or whatever. It was like a mini all-star almost, and I think that's where most people, including players, honestly, started losing interest, right? But hey, at least we are getting some more international tournaments, which is what we've all been wanting for years and years. Sure. And I still don't know, like, 100% how I feel about having so many splits. One thing that I felt watching LEC so closely this year is that it doesn't feel as exciting when a team like G2 just continues winning again and again and again. Like,
but they didn't.
Probably...
I mean, they lost in the regular season. I don't think that counts.
I know. I'm trying to, like, you know, keep everybody on their toes. There's a good chance
that G2 is going to win 4 splits this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I know that one of them is the season final, but that doesn't really matter. It's a bit crazy, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's something we might get used to, and ultimately, right now, my worry is about the fact we have so many splits, and winning your regional league doesn't feel as hype as it used to. It's kind of overshined by the fact we get that extra event, and of course, like you said, format and all does matter. But even then, we get Fearless mode, which is still really hype and new and exciting. Like the regions that have tried it out, I've been watching a bit on the sidelines, and it does look really refreshing.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed casting a league with Fearless, and we actually are doing a more aggressive approach this split, where last split we had where if you drafted a champ, then you couldn't play that champ for the rest of the best of series. Whereas this upcoming split, if either team drafts a champ, neither team can draft that champ for the rest of the series, which will be a lot more aggressive, and definitely it leads to stuff that's interesting. So I'm glad that it at least is like going to be a split in the global calendar. I feel like that's going to be a nice curveball for everyone. But I'll be honest, I'm more excited for that and the format than I am an actual 5-team international tournament. That I don't like that at all. I think that's lame, and I think that's a good call out, Medic. Like, I would have rather had, and I was pitching this on Hotline League, 2 international tournaments that ran at the same time that were, Eastern Hemisphere and Western Hemisphere, and then we just go from there. I think that's like would have been a format where even if you have like a 6-team bracket with each, for me, that's more exciting than just seeing a 5-team tournament. Like, this is going back to the issues that the initial MSI format had, where it was a group stage that then qualified you into like a 6-team group stage. And initially, they didn't even have the play-in group stage, right? They just took 6 teams and threw them in a bracket. No one liked that format. This is going from 6 to 5, and that's the one difference. Except, hey, we have Fearless. It's like this nice little thing that you can look at and ignore the fact that we're going back to a crap tournament format. I'm not a fan. So I really wish that like the 3rd international tournament had more juice behind it. Because frankly, for me, is this an international tournament? Yes, but in the history of League of Legends, we've never seen like. I can't remember a third-party tournament that was this small on scale. So it really doesn't feel like a significant event to me.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think it will be fun. And I think it could be enjoyable League of Legends to watch. I don't think it ever weighs up to like, it's not another MSI. It's definitely not another Worlds. It's never going to be in my head as the prestigious thing to win in the year. And I wonder, like, how do you then, work around the messaging around that? Because say you have a team on the Golden Road, but they lose that tournament, but win the rest of the year. Have they achieved the Golden Road? Because they haven't, actually managed to win all of the tournaments in a year. It now becomes trickier to do that. That's much more of a caster narrative thing, and I'm sure not many people are actually concerned about that. But it's an interesting idea to have, right? I do think that having more internationals is a good thing, and it does feel like Riot are trying to move a little bit more towards the good old days of League of Legends, which I'm not sure were the good old days of League of Legends, but when we had like regular international tournaments, regular competition cross-regionally, with the IPL and with IEMs and all of this stuff, where you'd have new teams facing up against each other regularly. I think the issue is when you just have the best teams of each region, it's rarer to get new teams playing up against each other. You're not going to see underdog stories as such, because the underdog in this case would be like a G2 or a Cloud9. Maybe they can beat JDG in a best of 5 series. Cool, that is really cool, but also it won't carry the same weight as if they won at an MSI or Worlds, because the question becomes, well, how hard are JDG trying? Have they really cared about this tournament? Is this tournament actually prestigious enough for them to put enough effort into it that it equates to an MSI or a Worlds win, right? So, I want to say I'm excited, and I do think it will be enjoyable to have another tournament. I think a 6-day tournament with 5 teams is not what I would have wanted to see, but maybe it's a sign of things to come.
I think it then brings a question here as well when it comes to, like, you're mentioning like the good old days of League of Legends, and I will be the first one to come out and say, like, I don't know anything about the good old days of League of Legends. Like, it just is what it is. And I think a lot of people that are watching League maybe some people have been watching for a very long time, but there's also a lot of new viewership. So I feel like having these newer international tournaments for a quote-unquote newer viewer could be a very exciting thing, because at the end of the day, having only MSI and Worlds already feels like, well, yes, they're very heavy in terms of how much they mean to each of these teams and how important they are, but it's like having something that's just fun, where you can just see teams get scrappy and just like, maybe like as Broxah mentioned, where you just see random 1v1s happening, it's literally just for the memes. I think that taking away from the seriousness and the intensity of some of these games could be very interesting to watch, because last year, particularly League of Its Own, that was done by Red Bull, where they brought T1 over to Europe and they were going up against the European teams. That was genuinely so much fun, and I think it brings the question of, do people like it? It then gives you that as a casual viewer, you can literally just watch for memes, for shits and giggles, and you don't have to be like, oh my god, who's gonna win MSI? How many points are they gonna get? What's this? Are they gonna go for Worlds? It's like, oh, I can literally just tune in, brain off. Haha, this person is playing Yumi jungle. I'm gonna do that in my solo queue. Please don't. But it's like more of the entertainment factor, which I feel like sometimes when we look at esports, it feels like we're trying so hard to make it like traditional sports and take it so seriously, which it is, but it's not. So I feel like it's a nice little spice up, a nice little change from just like, oh, have to win MSI, have to win Worlds, have to collect all these trophies like fucking Thanos' Infinity Stones,
Yeah, I mean, I think that those events like did a really nice job of, having a good time and engaging fan base. But there were like a decade ago, we were getting tournaments like IPLs, like IEMs, where it was not a Riot sanctioned event, so it was a smaller scale and it wasn't the priority. But man, the teams that went there, like they boot camp, took it hard, and you got some really good games out of those. And had some really nice storylines. That was the only international tournament an NA team won for years and still is. It's the last one. It's an IEM where Coup Tigers choked, and TSM like actually won the event with a good Coup Tigers in it. Like that's a crazy storyline that happens just because you have more instances of these teams coming together across the world. Yeah. I think with talking with a lot of the teams here in NA, I mean, I've talked to some that like actually want to go to a majors in a boot camp system where you really just put priority on more big tournaments throughout the year. And those tournaments have better formats. Like I don't think this 5-team format is fun. I seriously, I mean, it's cool because it's a Riot sanctioned event, but I don't want to see a 5-team format. Like to me, that's like the tournaments that I want to see. Like, I want to see the best teams in the world come together to compete. That's really not doing that. That's
you don't
not
want to see
enough.
a bloodbath. You don't want to see them dragging each other through the mud and just like wrestling it out like MMA style or whatever.
See, that happens if you have a good tournament format, because you're going to get a series that is bound to do that. It happened this last time I saw,
I think it would be cool if they if they gave like lower tier teams a chance to participate at times as well, because I think...
What's a lower tier team for you?
Best of the worst. Rogue play up against Dignitas. Oh,
no,
Dignitas look like
no,
like having,
that would be a banger. No,
in Americas, an EU Masters team like gets an invite, like you combine some of these together, those tournaments are fun as well.
But even just middle of the pack teams, because I think the issue with only allowing the very best team from each region to go is that you're almost gatekeeping the rest of them.
And
like
their calendar
G2, for example, are already so far ahead of everybody in Europe. And if they continuously are like the only one of two teams that goes to these international tournaments, man, it's going to be hard for the rest of people to catch up, right? Like the advantage you get is just way too massive. And then in terms of, what the tournament should be, I mean, that's really up to Riot to decide. I definitely hope it's going to be another, like, a serious tournament. Because I think if we want something like what All-Stars used to be or whatever, there's going to be different openings for that after Worlds like it used to. But, man, just seeing more banger games would be really hype. And I think the beauty of this tournament being so early in the year is also that it probably will be crazier than the rest of the tournaments, crazier than MSI and Worlds, because many teams are going to have made, recent changes, and they now have an opportunity to test a bunch of things against some of the other best teams in the world and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think...
just being better all the time.
No, see, Ginny, I'm trying to restart the recording because your computer shit the bed.
Because you said
and you're
South North America.
There's no proof of that. There's no proof I ever said South NA.
You literally said South NA and my computer just went...
Show me the tape. Show me the tape. It doesn't exist, Ginny.
Are you trying to gaslight me? Oh my god.
Yeah, I came over DDoS your PC just to... speaking of DDoS, T1. No, we'll get to that in a moment.
Wow, smooth.
So I think there's a couple of points to your point. Firstly, the fifth major region is APAC. Previously I said South America, but North America and South America have two conferences and they feed into the same major region. APAC is the other one, which is Vietnam, Hong Kong, Japan, Taiwan, and a few other regions, like Southeast Asian areas. So they're the other team that will be qualifying to internationals. My main point about you talking about how you want it to be more of an entertaining tournament where you can meme and giggle a little bit more is I like the idea in theory. The problem is we had All-Stars for a while, and the first few All-Stars were really good, but they eventually became so memey and players cared so little about them that they just weren't enjoyable to watch. It wasn't a fun viewing experience. And I think when you have teams of this caliber and players of this caliber, you do them a disservice by saying, go out there and just try to have fun when they're in the middle of a competitive split. What I want to see is the best teams in the world, or some of the best teams in the world, competing to try and be the best on any given day, right? And that's what I want from an international tournament. With only 5 teams, it's going to be interesting how it plays out, but I think it should be as competitive a tournament as Riot can make it. Otherwise, I think you're doing the whole ecosystem a bit of a disservice in that moment.
I think as well, something to really...
Oh, wait, I had a second point.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, sorry. It's my fault for stopping. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Oh.
If
That's
you
such a
do,
great
we'll release
point.
the lost footage of Aaron saying South and A. Woo!
I cannot believe... That's just... Wow. Either way.
Never happened.
Never, totally never happened. Like, absolutely not. But I think as well, like, when we're looking in terms of, like, there being a... So we have the Fearless Draft, which is soft Fearless Draft, by the way, from what I read. Does that actually mean that if you pick the champion, that the other team can't pick it? Or, like, how does that work?
I'm pretty sure soft fearless is if you pick a champ, you can't pick it again in the series.
Yeah.
All right.
That'll probably
Hard
be what they
fearless
go with.
is neither team can pick it.
All right. I think like we're going from the soft Fearless Draft, and then we have an international, then we have another split, then we have MSI, then we have another split, then we have Worlds. And when you're looking at the calendar in terms of a team like G2, as we're talking about, a team that has been consistently making it, at least in Europe, in the LEC, the question for me then is, are they going to be okay? Because you're going to be traveling back and forth because it's an international. It's not going to be on home ground. You're going to have to play regionally, then go internationally, play regionally again. You need to adapt back to playing in your region. You need to, if it's like, say, a different, like this time around, MSI being in China, you have to like reset your body clock due to the fact that jet lag is a real thing. Trust me, been there, done that. And burnout is the first word that comes to mind when I am looking at these schedules for teams that are so good at this.
I
think
like talking with some of the teams in the ecosystem. I think some of them actually would rather be at a major system than just this extremely lengthy schedule. I think that, like, especially here in NA, teams have come to the conclusion that, hey, we have to go to Korea or somewhere else to boot camp. Our server just can't handle our teams performing at their best when it like push comes to shove. So when you throw that in on top of the schedule as well, like boot camps, like everything outside, this is a really, really full schedule, which, I mean, great for fans, but is it really great for fans if we don't get our teams performing at their best and we struggle with things like that? I think it's a really valid question.
I honestly don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be, and it's mostly up to the teams themselves to manage. I mean, I know 2018, when we on Fnatic had full runs in both LEC splits, and we played at MSI and we went to the World Final. I remember the week leading up to the World Final very clearly. Like, I think I can speak for all of us in the team. Like, we hated League of Legends more than anything in life that final week. I've never had scrims so terrible. It was just over. But that was also after, 9 months of just having very limited amount of breaks at any point, and especially the 1.5 months that we spent in Korea. None of us did anything except sit at our PCs, playing and talking about League of Legends for that entire Worlds period, from the boot camp till the end. And I think this is really the key part. Like, teams being able to understand how you get the most out of players and how you actually keep them in a healthy mindset. Because even if you play for a bottom team, like LEC just began again, but I know a lot of the bottom teams started bootcamping like a month ago. So it's not like they're enjoying life or just sitting on a beach on a holiday either. Like, everybody is grinding a lot, even when you don't see them on camera. But what I really like about G2 structure this year is that they have such a big emphasis on what happens outside of the game too. They don't just get their players to play League 15 hours a day. You actually see them uploading clips and videos where they're at the gym, or they're like running, or they're having like mental coach sessions, or they have all these outside things, sleep, that they focus on, which actually makes them seem like more of, I'm gonna say, like a real sports team, really treating them as professional athletes. And I think this is going to be the key to prevent stuff from burnout, or stuff like burnout from happening, because that was the problem in 2018. Like, we were just gamers, and if you just treat yourself as a hardcore gamer who lives and breathes the game, to that point of view, you're gonna struggle, and you're gonna struggle no matter what the league or tournament format looks like. So I think it really comes down to just being able to find that balance and making the scene and the league space as a whole just more professional.
Wow, that was so deep. Thank you. Thank you for bestowing this knowledge upon us. I got also a little bit distracted by Medic's cat. I'm not joking. And my own. She's trying to eat my makeup for whatever reason. But just cat things. I think like when we're looking at this whole like third international being added, and we already also touched upon a little bit on Fearless Draft, I want to talk a bit more about the implications of it, particularly because again, it's being a softer Fearless Draft. What are we expecting this to actually change in terms of the team dynamic, in terms of the gameplay, in terms of even entertainment purposes? Because I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, this could genuinely be so fun. But then at the same time, like, are we just going to see like you're on game 5 of a BO5 series with the soft Fearless Draft and people are literally coming up with the most brain rot picks? Like, what are we going to see?
I don't think you get towards like really eclectic picks with only 5 games of soft Fearless Draft. Like even in LPL at the moment, they're doing best of 3 Fearless, and it's soft Fearless there as well, I'm pretty sure.
It's minimal effect.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's very minimal. I do wonder, and I've been thinking about this quite a lot, is because the effect is so minimal, is it actually worth it?
Yeah, like, should we get
Like-
hyped about it?
Well, I can understand excitement because you do see, 3 different champions from each team, from each player on each team through the series. So if there's one champion that's just giga busted, it's like, well, at least we're not seeing Cassante every game. I get that.
Yeah.
But there's also an argument that when you have the best players in the world, why deny them the resources, right? Why say to someone, okay, we're going to hamstring you a little bit here because... And like sometimes it's design flaws, sometimes it's just the champion is really strong. But it's like, we're going to hamstring you a bit because actually we made this champion a little bit too strong right now. And we don't want you to play it every game because it's not that fun to watch. Cassante at MSI is a good example of this, where I'm sure the design team did everything they could to make sure he was in a solid spot. And I think he's a very hard champion to design around. You can argue the motivations of the design team till the cows come home, right? But my assumption always is... I revert to trust and I say, I assume the design team is trying their hardest to make the game enjoyable to watch and enjoyable to play, right? And Cassante, I don't think was that fun to watch, just because of how tanky he was and how much he did, and the fact that Hans Sommer forgot that you can buy Lord Dominic's regards in that game.
I will not yield!
I think there is a counter argument to Fearless Draft where it does seem to be the new hotness, and a lot of people seem very excited by it, and I understand that. But if you only go for soft Fearless Draft, I don't actually think you see the depth that you want out of Fearless Drafting. I think you have to go hard Fearless Drafting, especially over best of 3, to really get into the, do these players know enough stuff? Do they have enough tools in their toolkit to really like plunge the depths of League of Legends? And if you're not doing that, I think there's a strong argument to say, why are we denying them what could be the best for their team, what could be the best in the game at the moment? Why are we not seeing the best players play the best things?
I think that... So I learned a lot from casting a league that had Fearless, and we were one of the early leagues to do it for Tier 2, for LCS Challengers League. I kind of agree with you, Medic. Like, personally, I really like in Best of Series when you get salty runbacks of drafts, and it's like, okay, can this team play it differently, right? But I do think that one of the fun things about Fearless is that it forces you to win in different ways.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to win a Best of Series, especially like Best of Fives, like you might have to play a Jace Maokai poke comp, a Nico Viego, all in, get a reset comp, and then something else from mid jungle that can find you a win, right? And that's going to be really different styles. So it does force you to show more of a hand. I think because of that, because you have to kind of be a master of all instead of master of one, you actually get series that can be closer. And there was a lot of metagaming that went on with Fearless, like as time went on. Some parts of it were boring. So the common handshake that we had was Renekton versus Gragas. And Renekton into the 2 most like common picks into him. I think there were Gragas, Ornn, and Gnar. Renekton had like a 60% win rate into all those. So then it became like, it was an actual talking point, like, okay, this is the one game of Renekton that you get. Can you win it? Like there is more emphasis put on this champion. Or also, like, there were teams that sometimes could play Jax top and jungle. So when you take that Jax, you're denying a pick like that you can use later on in the draft for both roles to put it in one. Like, Flux picks are actually really heavily nerfed in this format. we're going to figure out a lot of like interesting metagame things. Like I have a ton on my list. I think it's better to go from red to blue in a series because you need blue side later on to just unlock a pick that's been banned from you for the entire series. Also, you protect your powerful blinds throughout the series. That can be really strong if you start on red. Vi plus Nautilus, don't want to take those together. Two most like common point and click R's, right? If you take them in the same draft, what happens when the enemy team picks Zarya Lucian the next game? We're going to figure out like a lot of these metagame things, and it'll be a more interesting game for that. But I do agree that I think a lot of people are caught up in the allure and aren't really accepting of the fact that this doesn't really have a big impact. Like we saw game 5s with relatively reasonable drafts in Fearless. Like I think I saw Kennen versus Jason in game 5. It's like the most interesting like match I can think of off the top of my head, like for the top lane, just seeing a Kennen. We didn't see it all split, but yeah, you don't really have to dig that deep in this format. It does force you, though, to play different strats as a team. And I think that's the interesting part.
I do think just the fact that you have to think and approach draft entirely differently from like a player coach point of view definitely makes it a lot more exciting. Because right now it's like, it's pretty easy to prepare yourself going into a draft, and every player just needs like 3 to 5 champions that they can play. Whereas here, a lot of stuff can actually go down, and like you mentioned, there's all sorts of things you have to take into account, even with site selection. Like, I know when I joined Fnatic 2017, I had G2's current coach still in Falco as my coach then, and I remember him telling us, guys, we will go blue side every single game, no matter what, while I'm your coach, because blue side is OP. And here we are in 2024, all these years later, and guess what? Blue side is still OP. Like, there really hasn't been that much change to how drafting works over all these years, and I think this definitely does spice it up a lot. I also think it would be cool to get like a full-on hardcore Fearless draft at some point, but I'm hoping this could just be the step in the right direction, because, I mean, I think, Medic, your comments on Cassandra were very professional and political. Like, that champion is absolutely disgusting and ridiculous, and I don't know how somebody got away with creating that creature of a top laner, but I'm so sick of some of these champions. And I honestly think, as a viewer, like, just it's too easy to predict what teams are going to play, and this changes that. Like, there's a chance that I can actually watch a jungler play something that is not, I don't know, Sejuani or Maokai at an international tournament. I don't know. I mean, we would have to go pretty far down the pool for Zyra to happen, but just spice it up and play something cool and interesting. Because I think the fact that we have, I think it's 167 champions or something in the league right now, and we see such a small pool played professionally, it's kind of a shame.
I agree with that. I think the more the more we discuss it now, the more I'm bought into full hardcore Fearless draft for this tournament. Like, just if you're gonna do it, just go all in, because this tournament isn't like, it isn't an MSI, it's not a Worlds. Yes, it can be competitive, but kind of moving into Ginny's direction of make it as entertaining as possible at the same time. Like, do full hardcore Fearless and then say game 5 is blind pick. Like,
loser
just do, like, really experiment with what you're gonna do in terms of drafting or in terms of something in-game. Like, I think you could even say the top picked champion in every region for every role cannot be picked in this tournament going into it. Any top pick champion, or across the world, right? Like, you pick the 5 most picked champions across the world and you say no one can play this. And if you can't deal with it, you can't deal with it. That's, in the end, as I said, like, I don't think anyone's going to put this as like, oh, you won MSI, what a great job. It's not the same prestige, so make it something cool. Make it something that I tune into and I say, actually, it's not just a week where a few teams play each other. I'm going to see something that isn't what I see for the other 3 splits in the year, or what I see at MSI, or what I see at Worlds. Like, really push the boat out. And it doesn't have to be like as far as saying we're going to ban like all the champions in the game and you have to pick something that's never been picked before. But you can really experiment with it and make it like a marquee tournament, even if it doesn't have the same prestige as an MSI or Worlds.
That sounds really fun. I think.
Well, Riot, if you use that idea, faker
trademarked.
Skin. One faker skin. That's all I asked for. I'm cheap.
$500.
Wait, no, the good faker skin, not just like Infernal Ari or something. Like, just give me.
But
a
you just
good
said you're
skin.
cheap.
But
Meta can't be a broke boy. He needs the real Ari skin, you know?
Yeah, 500
I mean,
euros,
he works in
you know?
esports. I feel like broke boy and esports is like hand in hand at this point in time. What? Am I wrong? Like, anyway.
You're hanging out with the wrong boys in esports, Ginny. Come on.
Yeah.
She's Shinny.
Anyways, no, I am. You know, I'm new to this. I'm finding out what people used to get paid. And I'm like, damn. But the good old days, like you guys are talking about when it comes to the All Stars or whatever that event was, it sounds like a fun time. But I actually like the more that we're talking about it as well in terms of like the fearless draft. I do think if we can just like go full send it, just go fearless draft, you know, ban other picks, that might be really interesting because I do agree with Broxah. It's very easy when you're looking at a game like at the LEC, you're like, oh yeah, they're gonna go Jinx. Oh, it's gonna be Jinx. Oh, it's gonna be Jinx again. No, oh my god, Jinx again. And it's like, okay.
That's more of an indictment on how bad LEC teams are at closing out the game than about the power of Jinx. But yeah, I agree with you.
I think that's a topic that we're gonna have to come back to because the LEC this week has been like, what the fuck is going on? But I also want to talk about furthermore in terms of the announcement here. I want to talk about the guest slots before we head into the changes to the LCS. I'm a zoomer. I saw a 50-page document and I was like, no, I didn't read it. So can anyone explain? Like, you know, that I'm sorry that happened to you or congratulations. That's what I thought when I opened the document. But if anyone can explain in,
I got it.
Then I would love that.
I
Ginny?
think Cubby, maybe explain the NA regional differences first, right? Because the guests feed into that. So
I mean, true. I was just going to say, Ginny, you know, LCS, Mark Z, he has a rose that he gets to give to a team that he wants to have in the league.
For free?
Those teams have to be tier 2 in the NACL system or Americas. He just gets to hand out, or maybe outside of it. Who knows? It's up to him. He gets
Have
a
you
rose.
ever watched The Bachelor, Ginny?
No.
Yeah, see, I thought you might have been aging yourself with that reference. If it was something a little bit more TikTok-y.
Oh, I thought you meant like a rose. Like
no,
he has,
in
like,
The
a cute little
Bachelor, you
gift.
give the rose to the woman that goes on to the next round. Right,
yeah. Mark Z has a rose.
Mark Z has some dirt that he can leave under his pillow for the dirt man.
No, not the dirt under the pillow.
Right? And the dirt man will come along and take it, and they get the guest slot.
So basically, like, this is gonna sound crazy, right? But if you're like really good friends with someone, like say you're really good friends with Mark Z, you're like, you know, you guys have like grown up together, you went to college together, like you were like neighbors, and like, could Mark Z just give it to you? Could you just be like, yo, can I like have it could he just give it to you? Is there like a selection process? Like what's... Oh.
I mean, I can field this. I assume probably it's NA stuff, right? So
it is. I mean, my impression is that it really is just up to him. Like he just gets to pick a partner.
Oh shit.
I think it's I mean, maybe for the first one, but after that, I'm pretty sure it's like a relegation promotion system. Yeah.
Yes.
There's gonna be that's fun, relegation promotion.
Yeah.
So could you like hypothetically put a team of streamers together, right? And go up to Mark Z and be like, you can be our coach. And we're like,
I think there's a conflict of interest in asking the LCS commissioner to be your coach. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying if it does, there's definitely a conflict of interest.
If I can think about it, someone else on the internet can think about it. You know, like that's all. I'm not that smart.
Yeah. No, it's promotion relegation though. So it's a way, like with the changes, like I think the impact that we're seeing is that obviously CB like lost quite a few teams. They're upset. Well, LLA as a region, they were also, you know, kind of removed even from minor region status from this. That said, there's going to be a tier 2 system below. And that way, you know, these teams are able to actually fight through whatever the circuit will look like next year and compete with the tier 1 teams that get relegated because they'll have a tournament where it's the best or the worst of the tier 1 teams, the best of the tier 2 teams, and the winner then gets to be a tier 1 team. So I think that it's a way to really make sure that the regions that will no longer be a part of the official Riot ecosystem, aka LLA, will be able to still compete. And also, you know, keep the partners honest in the league because we definitely saw a lot of splits where like the top NACL team was better than the bottom 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 LCS teams. Like this has happened in the past. So now if that happens, they have to face relegation.
Oof.
Yeah, just for clarity's sake, the Americas is now a region and it's split into 2 subgroups. There's North American Conference, South American Conference.
South North America.
And the North American Conference is 6 LCS teams, 1 LLA team, and then 1 guest team. And the South American Conference is 6 CBLOL teams, 1 LLA team, and then 1 guest team. So, as you say, LLA is kind of being dissolved, and then 2 teams are being split. LCS is losing 2 teams. CBLOL, I think, is losing 4 teams, because I think they're at 10.
Yeah, they're losing a lot.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question is when you're looking then at the LCS, is this going to be rebranded to Americas? Like, for example, in VCT, it's VCT Americas, where you have the Brazil, LATAM, and North America all in one region competing in the Riot Studio in LA. Is that the direction?
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be a full Americas. I think we'll have the North American Conference, which will likely still be LCS, because I don't really see a reason to drop that branding. And then the South American Conference, which I wonder if it will still be CBLOL with the introduction of LLA. I assume it will still be CBLOL. Again, why drop the branding if you have the branding, right? It doesn't really make too much sense. And then the whole collective will be Americas, right? So Americas will be the region, and then you have the LCS and the CBLOL underneath that. And there will be some like cross-regional play. It just doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of it. It's the best teams from each region is the wording they used will play against each other. I'm very worried that the best teams from Brazil are just going to go over to like either, Blabber goes down to Sao Paulo and just absolutely poops on some Brazilian teams, or like a BRTT goes up to LA and just gets pooped on as well. So like you can tell I haven't done the jungle in a while because I'm deliberately holding my swear words.
Yeah, I'm like, why is it poop?
Well, I'm too used to being on like normal. Like, I say normal. This isn't normal, but let's be honest. I'm too used to being on like more commercialized products, Riot products, right? I can't swear. So yeah, I expect there to be some fuckery between those 2 regions. I don't expect the South American Conference to come out on top.
So I want to like dig a little bit deeper then in terms of like the consequences that this could have on the LCS particularly, because it is a merge at the end of the day that you're looking at. But then when we're looking at the internationals, Cubby, what exactly does this merge mean? Because again, you're still going to have the LCS, you're still going to have the CBLOL. There is going to be some cross-region, or what they call it, cross-conference games. But why does it actually matter?
Well, it's because we lost a seed at Worlds and MSI, which is pretty serious. Yeah, so my impression is that for MSI, each of these conferences, what they're calling it now, gets a seed. And then for Worlds, the better of the 2 conferences gets a second seed. But the best team from each gets locked in still at Worlds. So when you think about that, what did LCS have previously? It was a 2-3 split. Now the best it can do is a 1-2 split with MSI and Worlds. So that was actually quite the bomb dropped on top of all this. I know that like with at least how PCS worked, we didn't get to see DFM at MSI because they lost in the playoffs to PCS, and what I understood to be actually a very close 5-game series. Now the fact that you have a lock seed, I think they almost have to do that to make sure that CBLOL can keep pumping as a region, and also to make sure that like you don't just consolidate to the conference that has more world seeds off the bat. That said, taking overall seeds away from the region is why I was not expecting that as part of the changes.
I think Worlds and international teams have just been reduced in general, right? Like MSI is a little bit smaller, Worlds is a little bit smaller. We've had this like long-term consolidation of regions happening, and obviously it's sad for NA when you like as a region. I think North America has been doing better than it ever, well not ever, but better than it has regularly over the last couple of years. Like NRG beating G2. TL beating Fnatic. FlyQuest obviously failed a little bit at MSI, but I think generally it's been an upward trend for North America. On the other side of the coin, APAC now being a combined region, that's so fucky for them. Like the VCS is in there, the PCS is in there, the LGL is in there, Oceania is in there. Like
Vietnam, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Macau, Japan, Oceania, and the rest of Southeast Asia.
And they get 1 seed, I think. Like, that is so minuscule compared to where they used to be. And it does make me concerned for emerging regions. Like a couple of years ago, I was hearing like VCS is the second or the third biggest region, or like the quickest growing region out of any region in the world. And now, if you're a Vietnamese fan of League of Legends, your team first has to go through this gauntlet of all the other regions in Southeast Asia and an APAC, and then manages to get it to MSI. And then even if they get to MSI, maybe they, just have very tough opponents early on, get knocked out very quickly, and you're out. And you don't get to see that regional representation that is the lifeblood of being a fan of a League of Legends esport.
I think like further that brings to me the worry as well in terms of how teams are that, like how leagues regionally are then going to develop, because we're seeing that, and it's something that Broxah already touched upon, particularly for a team like G2 who goes internationally, gets all of that experience, gets all of those scrims ready, does the boot camp, learns a lot, comes back to Europe. LEC week 1, we'll just forget about that for now. But we're also looking at a team like Fnatic, and like in the interviews this week, like Fnatic went 3-0, and they were like, wow, we learned a lot of things from MSI, especially when it comes to discipline, and you can see that on their gameplay. So to then have fewer slots, especially when we're looking at the LCS, for example, a region that is like, you can tell they're all working really hard in terms of, improving that international standard. To me, I'm then worried in terms of how that's going to reflect on other regions, because you have teams that are going to be going to all these internationals, and then say VCS, for example, doesn't make it out of the APAC of that first year to go to MSI. What are they going to take home? Like what international experience are they going to get? How are they going to make the entire region more competitive?
Well, I definitely think if we want more regions to be competitive, I mean, it goes back to the conversation we had earlier, but they would just have to drop the leagues. Like, just instead of having leagues, just have like 10 tournaments a year or whatever. Because right now the problem is that for the past 10 years, I mean, initially it was Korea who was just stomping everybody else, but then China caught up to them, partly due to them pumping more resources, but also being able to scrim Korean teams on a daily basis for all these years. And there's been like a couple of teams here and there over the years from both the minor regions that looked great and surprised a lot of people, similarly to Fnatic 2018, G2 2019. But it's just, it feels like we need to get really lucky that everything falls into place and that we have this dream puzzle that finally is finished for us to have any chance of going all the way, where LPL and LCK just keep sending god tier team after god tier team, and even if 5 of them drop out, there's another 2 or 3 that are are ready to smash us. And if we don't get to practice against them consistently over the year, I think closing that gap is going to be incredibly difficult. And I think it's hard to say in the long run what's actually best, like whether the stability from the leagues is better, or if we should go to more of like a Counter-Strike, a Dota system with more tournaments. I can't really say that. But I do worry a little bit that if we don't eventually start seeing other regions perform and have a legitimate shot at winning, then the viewership may continue to drop. Because I know when I started watching League, like every time Worlds would come around, I legitimately believed that EU or NA would have a chance of winning, and back then the 2 regions even felt very, very evenly matched. Like there was some bangers pretty much every tournament, but then it just slowly got worse and worse and worse over the years. And yeah, that's kind of hard to watch for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, when you're talking about like the quality of game, or in terms of like the perception of the audience for the quality of games, I checked Reddit, which I usually don't do because I don't have a Reddit account, so like I have to like really find a link. But someone sent me a link, and they were like one of my friends, and I was like, oh, I'll click on it, and it was a live discussion of the LEC of this current week. And as I was scrolling, it felt like 80 to 70% of the sentiment was like, oh, this is shit gameplay. Oh, this is shit gameplay. Oh, this is shit
take
gameplay.
umbrage. Okay, so I agree with you, but I'm sorry for interrupting you, Ginny.
No, go.
I apologize, but I am pissed by this sentiment, right? Because yes, some of our teams aren't playing at an international quality level, but I watched a game today between the 2-0 AL against Ultra Prime in the fucking LPL. and they tried to two-mana Baron and both died to it in the most obvious play I have ever seen in my life. And the fact that people are like, LEC is so shit, they don't know exactly how to play, when they're comparing us to fucking T1 and JDG and being like, oh my god, you guys aren't playing as well as fucking Gen G are right now? You're shit. Oh, you're playing to your win con by delaying the game until Upset gets fed on Jinx? Oh, you're shit. It's like, no, we're not shit. Like, just because a team doesn't play at a fucking international finals level, I'm not saying our teams don't make mistakes. I'm not saying the LEC isn't slightly lower quality than what you see at MSI. But what I'm saying is saying that every team in the region is bad because you watch someone make a mistake is fucking spurious, and I hate it. I hate it so much. It's regular fucking season. You need to win 3 games to make it into our playoffs. Just let the teams fucking play. I'm so pissed. I'm so angry.
No, I was gonna say, like, people are saying that it's like really shit low tier quality gameplay, and then I'm like, have we been watching the same thing? Because first of all,
you froze for a second there, Ginny. I was so worried.
No. First of all, I want to say it's week 1 after a literal 10-week break for some of these teams. That's one thing to take into consideration. You're going back onto the stage. You're getting back into the swing of things. Even as talent coming back after such a long break, you're like, oh shit, like how, bro, I fucking, instead of calling Mac, because it's Mac and Pat, I call him Mad. And I'm like, why would I say that? But anyway, it's like you need to get back into the swing of things. Number 2, it's also the fact that I feel like a lot of teams have stepped up. Like BDS, I think, has been doing really great. I think Fnatic, in terms of their gameplay, the quality that we've seen from them, like they are no longer just sometimes headless chickens running around doing shit. Like they're actually, like, they're calculated. We're looking at Rogue, like they gotta win. What the fuck? And yeah, sometimes they're just like, oh, we're not gonna fight for this objective. But still, especially their early game has been so much better. You're looking at Vitality. We don't talk about that. You're looking at KC. They got 2 wins. They got 2 wins in 1 week. Bro, they got 2 wins in the whole of the split of spring. And now they do it in 1 week. Like, I don't know what Reddit wants these days.
It's just the co-streamer effect more than anything, to be honest.
Yes.
Like, ever since co-streaming has become a thing, like the witch hunts on players and teams has spiraled completely out of control. Like, just there's a limit to how far I want to dive into this, because instead of, you know, it becoming co-streamers witch hunting players, it's going to be me witch hunting co-streamers. But like how it felt
we're gonna witch hunt you
in 2020 and 21 was so different than any other year, because I know Medic and I actually spoke to Vedius about this a fair amount at the studio yesterday, because there was this big thing this weekend about Vedius commenting on a certain Carmen Core player, and then he went on.
You can say the player's name, man.
You can say the player's name.
That's not what's going to get you in hot
drama,
water.
and it went completely nuts, and people are mad at Vedius, and he has a lot of angry commenters because he said that these guys finished 10th a couple of times and literally said the truth. But it sparked a very interesting conversation, because usually the guys that appear on the official broadcast are literally the spokespeople for the players. And sure, they're going to criticize us players and they're going to say when we make mistakes, but for the most part, even if they tell us we do something poorly, they actually present it in a pretty good way. Like, it's rare that you're gonna hear an analyst just hard flame you on broadcast.
Unless it's Broxah, like, and he just goes off on all of you.
Yeah, he does.
No, of course. But now with co-streaming, there's literally no filter anymore, and you have guys with a lot of viewers who tells the viewers all sorts of things, and most of them just listen and trust their opinion no matter what. And if a certain person says like, "Hey, Targamas is the worst jungler or support, sorry."
He would be. It's a really bad jungler if that's what he's trying to do.
But that's the storyline right now. Like, everybody's hard flaming poor Targamas and saying this guy never talks and never opens his mouth, and he's the worst support we've ever had in Europe, and this and the other. It would never have happened in the past. Like, no way. I don't remember anything that extreme back in the day, even when there was some legitimate, like, actual garbage players in LCS and LEC. And I think that's definitely one of the challenging parts now, managing all that. It actually, I have such a hard time accepting it, because sure, like you said, like there were mistakes happening in week 1. A lot of teams were playing poorly. It was the exact same way, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like on Fnatic, even, during our best phases, we were known for being terrible the first 2-3 weeks of a split. Like every time we came back from a break, we had no idea what we were doing at first. It was complete clown fiesta games. It's just always been that way because people have made roster changes, or a team like G2 had like very little time to practice. I think that like a week or less, but before getting back in the LEC stage, it's natural. It happens. And I think instead of focusing on the negatives, we should just try to enjoy the fact that some of these games were crazy entertaining to watch. Like you mentioned, Carmen Corp, their first win, this is unbelievable 10k comeback. It looked like a game straight out of solo queue. Like I couldn't believe my own eyes seeing a professional team win that game. Like the fact that Mad Lions threw it that way, it was mind-blowingly good. I loved every moment of it. We should just try to enjoy it. Like that was a great game to watch, to be honest.
I actually, that was fun. I cannot emphasize enough how much I agree with you about your co-streamer sentiment, though, because like, the issue I have with League, like, it's one of the bigger ones of late. I enjoy basketball. I'm watching the NBA Finals right now. I've also enjoyed. I went to see Caitlin Clark play, and she's now a pro. And there's a discussion going on between basketball and women's basketball because they haven't been very welcoming to Caitlin Clark, who's literally breaking the game in terms of viewership, people attending. I would have never gone to a WNBA game if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark playing. And that building was stocked full, unlike anything I've ever seen for women's sports, which I frequent because my cousin-in-law is a coach for women's basketball. The NBA, like there is a common acceptance that Shaq can't do what he did 20 years ago because it's just a physical sport, right? And I sit here saying, like, I think if Doublelift like really wanted to pick up the sticks, he could be good again. But because of this, everyone still talks like they are that good, and the amount of talking down that happens instead of the mentoring up, like the best part about these halftime shows is that you get all-time great players and Hall of Famers that are like, yeah, like this guy's playing really good, or the criticism from them is like, hey, I used to do this, so they need to do this. It always is in that positive light because it's an official broadcast. That just doesn't happen with co-streamers on their own stream. There is so much talking down or like reminiscing about their days or whatever shit that's going on. It's like there's this and people just accept that because League's a culture where I can see how you clear your jungler or your jungle on your stream, Broxah. I can go do my best to emulate that, and then guess what? All of a sudden, it's like, oh, I can do what a pro does, right? Like this makes sense. Like that's like the P-brain thinking, though, of fans. And like, that's where it stops. And it's so easy to type and just be like, yes, I can do that. But people take that way too seriously, and I can't blame them for it because it's emulated from the co-streamers top down. And I really have an issue with it. Where are the people that are talking up the next pros? People coming in to replace them. Part of why we can never replace Doublelift is because Doublelift will never accept being replaced himself. No one wants to be the mantle of the next great player, He's not going to go build that up on his own. And I feel like it's a really big issue, and people are latching on to these things. And I really can't blame the negativity when it's coming top down from people that used to be great at this. I really can't.
I think as well, like, when we're looking at the co-streamers, I think, like, as much as we're like, okay, this is maybe like an issue with the co-streamers, I think, at least from the co-streamer that I watch, they're trying very hard to build up players because at the end of the day, that's also something that they used to do in their previous career. So I personally have never seen a co-streamer be really toxic towards players, but I do think that is also like a little bit concerning. And I think then it brings the question of, should there be like quote unquote laws or regulations when it comes to co-streamers, where I was like, you can't shit talk this person, you can't send toxicity towards these people. Because I was on an instance on a broadcast, this was not League of Legends related, it was a different game that I was playing, and there was a co-streamer, and this guy is the #1 streamer on Twitch during that period of time, and he just goes, oh, these fucking analysts are fucking shit, I can do a better job than them. And then the analysts that were working that desk started getting bombarded with message requests where like, you should quit your job. Our streamer can do your job better. Why are you doing this job? You're shit. You're trash. Go yourself. IRL, not even in game. They were like IRL. And I think that is another instance where it's like so much hate and toxicity being sent towards people who are genuinely like, this is their job, and they're not just doing it because it's a paycheck, they're also doing it because they're really passionate about it. Because, you know, the amount of effort that goes into these broadcasts, it's not just you show up and you talk on camera. For the players, it's not just you show up and you plug in your keyboard and you go press a little button and you're done. Like, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, which then, should there be regulations? Because hate being sent in such an extent is concerning, to say the least.
Yes, there should. I think when you talk about regulations, obviously it's a very nuanced topic. I don't think Riot should ever be saying to co-streamers you can't be who you are as a co-streamer. I do think like the issue is that there's a Pandora's box that is opened with co-streaming, and the way it is now is, in my opinion, not how it should be. I think that co-stream should be a much more refined affair, and it should be utilized more sparingly. I think having co-streams for like the end of playoffs or finals of international tournaments or finals of tournaments is great. I think the amount of co-streaming that happens right now is only detrimental to the broadcast. I think for the co-streamers it's great, and again, this is not me, like, obviously my job is affected by the numbers that co-streamers get compared to the number the broadcast gets, so I'm gonna like explain that I have a bias there. But I think that having co-streamers in the position they are, where their contribution to the broadcast is nothing, when you actually look at it from a business point of view, right? Like, well, they are contributing a viewer base that may or may not have watched the main broadcast anyway, and what they're taking away is the investment that the Riot puts in, the investment that all the other people on the show put in, the tech guys, the players' time, the lighting effects for the studio, and all of that, right? And so I think... Sorry.
I would assume, though, that viewer base, the numbers that they're pulling, are also beneficial, because I am making a huge assumption here, but that is that you can show these numbers and be like, look, we have X amount of viewers...
Yeah, for Riot, that's the reason it happens, right? Like, you say, oh, we can say we have 40,000 more viewers. The question is, like, I'm going to use Cajal as an example because he's the numbers I know, right? If you say Cajal has 40k and the LEC has 40k, how many of Cajal's 40k would have just watched the LEC if Cajal wasn't co-streaming it, right? If it's 75%, how much gain do you get out of it, right? Because Cajal's not paying to co-stream the LEC, and he's not... Like, any viewers to his chat don't actually contribute directly to LEC's paycheck. All they're doing is they then take the numbers and say, hey, KitKat, give us 5% more money because we have these 40,000 extra viewers, right? Coming back to the narrative point, or the should co-streamers be allowed to say specific things, I think it is an important discussion to have, and it's one where, because Riot have already opened Pandora's box, I think it's going to be very hard to walk it back. Because if I'm a co-streamer and I'm getting all these numbers... Maybe Riot coming into next year will say, okay, well, if you co-stream for us, you have to sign this agreement that says you're not going to disparage Riot Games. And the question is, right, maybe co-streamers say, sure, I'll sign the agreement, and then you have to have someone watching the co-stream the whole time to make sure it's not happening, which we don't have the staff to make content on the LEC. I'm not sure we have the staff to like watch all the co-streams.
We don't have staff to do marketing.
Exactly. But also, if Cajal just says no, what happens? Your viewership drops by 50%, right? Like, maybe some of those viewers come back to the LEC, as we said, maybe like 20k of them come back, but like, this is the problem with co-streaming, and always has been, right? A few days ago, Cajal was locked out of his apartment and couldn't start his co-stream on time.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, like this has always been the problem with co-streaming. It's kind of a separate point to where we were before, and we've talked about co-streaming a little bit before on this podcast as well. So maybe we should move on. But
I want to...
Sorry,
No. I think it's a good discussion to have, and it was relevant to the point we were talking about, because I do think there is this weaponizing of fan bases that happens, and I don't think it's always deliberate, but I think it does happen. And like, I've had it happen against me where I've got 30, 40 DMs because a player has tweeted something saying, "Oh, I didn't like what you said," and you just get DMs telling you to off yourself, right? And it's
in game.
Not I mean, I got sent Amazon wish lists of ropes. I don't think it was intended to be in game, right?
That is so creative, but also what the fuck?
I laughed, right? And I'm mature enough to laugh. But if, say, that happened to a newer caster or someone who's just developing or someone who hasn't had the support network or the therapy that I've had over the last few years, right? Like, that can put you in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, for casters, that your job is to amplify the league and amplify the players, and I think sometimes people forget that. So when you say something offhand, or when you make a little bit of a joke that might be entertaining, obviously you miss the mark from time to time, but the intent 9 times out of 10 is to build up the player and build up the storylines.
Yep. I think, like, I want to stick to this building of the players and building up the storylines, particularly because we've already touched upon some of the teams that have done really well. I want to also touch upon individual players who've done really well. Particularly, I want to look at the SK bot lane because it's a Korean bot lane. And they ran Lucian Nami. And they did well, which I don't really see a lot on the LEC particularly. So that's a positive.
It's a bit of an interesting situation in LEC right now, because it feels like we had the good old days of importing a ton of Koreans, and it worked well. Then it stopped working, we went away from it, the region started seeing success again, we started struggling. Well, guess what, we're importing Koreans again, and it's working once more.
Well, it's only a 1 week sample, so I don't know if we can say that it's working.
Well, I think we are getting a lot of Koreans in the league this year compared to what we had like last year, and especially the couple of years before that. And obviously some of them are like stuck on lower tier teams. Even SK Gaming is usually a lower tier team, right? But getting that new bot lane has definitely leveled them up before. And I think from a viewer point of view, it's actually really interesting, because sure, it's not always perfect. I mean, you can meme on Vitality all you want, but Photon, their Korean top laner, is one of the best top laners in the league. Like, he's been an absolute giga-chess since he joined, and I think it's pretty cool that, you know, now your bot lane is struggling. Okay, goodbye. Just import these Koreans from, you know, either LCK or like lower tier Korean leagues, and they're usually just absolute monsters individually and very exciting to watch. But I am also curious to see how it's going to develop, because
Yeah.
I do remember the times where the imports went nuts, and it was almost too far, to the point where, well, it Europe felt like North America almost. Now, obviously, NA is like even further in the other direction nowadays, because a lot of the imports actually have green cards and whatnot. But I think it's good. But there needs to be a balance, so it still feels like homey to the Europeans. It still feels like the European leagues with players representing the various nationalities and all that.
I want to talk in general as well about, like, obviously the bot lane for SK is a new signing that we've seen, and I think that they've performed really well. I want to talk about the KC is another team that has had new signings. Vitality had a new signing, and GX. And I want to keep it positive and then end it on a negative note, unfortunately. So I want to dig a little deeper in terms of KC and how they have been performing, because they did change 3 out of 5 of their players. Like, the whole top side of that map is gone. New mid laner, new jungler, new top laner. And it seems to be working.
I think
It was a good start.
It was a good start.
Working. I think, again, this depends on how you look at it, because I'm going to take the positive glasses on, but I'm saying it's very tempting to take the negative ones here, because okay, I'll get a bit of the negativity out of the way quickly, then we move on.
Okay.
The Mad Lions throw was one of the biggest
and
craziest throws I've seen in an LEC game for the past 5 years. Like, I still cannot comprehend the fact they threw that game away. That's absolutely ridiculous. That was win 1. The second win was against Rogue. Like,
yeah, it is Rogue.
It's not the most impressive wins of all. I do want to also say that they actually looked very respectable in that game against Fnatic, and for a while I thought they had a pretty good shot at winning that, but then there were some hiccups here and there, and they got severely outdrafted as well and just couldn't play in mid and late game. But I think they've shown both very bad but also good sides, and what I like the most about this iteration of KC in week 1 is the fact that they actually were very mentally resilient, because before, in winter and spring, like, already 1, 2, 3 losses in, they look completely broken. Like, they were just doomed from the get-go. But now, even after the first loss, and even in the second game where they were supposed to lose, they actually just worked as a team, and they have pretty good synergy already, and it just looks like a bunch of guys that actually want to play together, which I think will make a massive difference.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the important thing, because in winter or spring, I would never have expected them to win that MDK game. And even the road game, like, they played to their win conditions really well. And I think that the introduction of Closer, who seems to be a really good voice, is helping them a lot. Kana is playing, relatively well. He hasn't blown up the league, but he's doing what he needs to do. His Camille game actually against... it was Finn on day 3 was really solid. Like, he got a good lead. He managed to get an early kill with the help of Closer, and it feels like the team has a coordinated strategy. Now, I don't care if all they do for the rest of the split is say, we're going to play late game. We're going to play slow. We're going to get this one style, and we're going to get good at it. Because that's how you can win in a regional league, right? Like, sometimes you only need one style. BDS... It
is an identity.
Yeah, BDS for, like, all of last year were just we team fight. We get to team fights and we team fight you, and Adam plays something a little bit weird, and maybe you can't deal with it in top lane, right? I think that if Carmine Core just do that, it is a good sign of promise. My worry would be going into next year, do you lose Kana and Closer, and then things, revert back to where it was? Is the introduction of Kalist enough if you're going to bring him up as well? But if you're looking at the short term, it's really promising signs for KC.
Yeah, I think this... Yeah, when we're looking at KC, I think, and we're looking at SK, these are actually the two teams that have done really well when it comes to their new signings. But then on the flip side of things, you have Vitality, who have Linsas in the jungle, and this team is 0-3 at the moment. And it feels like, I don't think we can put it particularly on the new signing, because I feel like there are multiple things happening at work when it comes to the games that Vitality has lost. I mean, what was it? Was that also like a 10k gold lead or some shit? Like,
yeah.
Against that was like what was that, and that's definitely not something that you can put on an individual player. But coming into this split, particularly with Vitality saying we have a year-long project, we're dedicated for a year, you're done, don't have a year-long project because you swap out your jungler, you would expect them to like just hit the ground running. They had X amount of weeks to prepare, didn't go to MSI, brought in a new jungler. I genuinely had such high expectations, and I don't know if that is unfair towards them, and that's why we're being so harsh on them, or if it's just like, yeah, they sucked.
I think that, like, I can't really put this on Linkus. Like,
no, absolutely not, no.
It just feels like Vitality...
Linksys,
thank you.
No worries.
It feels like, Vitality's only solution is to fight. And if those fights don't go their way, then Vitality drops. And I think we saw games like, I think the most obvious one was the game against Rogue. That was a game where it's like, wow, like, there were points in that game where it's like, how do they lose this? Like, they had each of their solo laners ahead. It's like, okay, if we were able to play out sides, it's all right. I will give props to Finn. I actually think he played pretty good defense against Camille that game. Because Camille for me is really overtuned in this patch. I know that he's playing Cassante, but I actually feel like he played it pretty solidly. But for me, again, like, the only solution this team has is to fight. And when you're playing Camille to like Talia, Yone, your ability to impact side lanes is so winning. And every moment I see from Vitality, it's like, okay, we're gonna group and fight. Well, you're not gonna win that into like an Azir Ashe core. And they overextended pretty hard on the map and Rogue punished and they ended up dropping that game. And so I think Vitality, like, that's a comp I can see them running, but if they want to run it, they have to be more disciplined in how they play sides. And also, Vitality is like a really bloody team. They were for every split so far of LEC. It's going to be part of their identity, but I think finding a balance for that is what they need. Like, let's at least be bloody in the right direction and try and go for 2v2s or 3v3s in that comp instead of 5v5s, you know?
I think Vitality just has become one of those teams where, no offense to anyone on the team or the coaching staff, but it's so visible from the outside, they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. Like, they are the literal
wow,
opposite.
No offense, but they're fucking clueless.
Oh my god, what happened to not flaming anyone?
But have you seen their team play? Like,
no, it doesn't exist.
It looks like they're
great.
just playing on full mute and I'm watching a solo queue game. Like, I don't understand what's happening, because this team has legitimately good players across the board, but they just have absolutely no synergy whatsoever. Whenever I watch them play, it just looks like they're just wandering around doing a bunch of random things, and there's no real plan in mind. And sure, there's the occasional game where Huli and Kasi go like win spot lane and make a bunch of really aggressive plays, and everybody else follows. But I don't see them having that bigger plan, or having that one player that's the glue that binds all the pieces together. And I think when it comes to that, I am curious to see how the roster change is going to affect them. The coaches made it really clear that they wanted a jungle change. I believe they even said publicly that, like, even if they went to a Messiah, they would still have brought in Luntas instead of Douglas. But I think Douglas, being I would consider him a more farm-oriented, slow jungler, a very, very full clear focused, wasn't the worst for them, because he brought some balance to that. And often, if Huli was about to go for an aggressive play, he would have to wait patiently for his jungler to finish, and then they could group up and they would have a little bit of time to actually pre-plan stuff. It just looks a little bit too random and mindless for my taste. And I think that's a shame when you have a team that's this good. Like, this is one of those teams where if they can finally get that structure, if they can get that synergy, if they can, just play a bit more by the book, they're going to become so incredible. But the fact that we're this far into the year and they only made this one change and they look so lost really concerns me.
Another team that made some change and looks really lost is GX, or Giant X. I don't really know. Okay, when it comes to Vitality, with the hype around the signing of Linsas and just how great Vitality is as a team with the individual members, I had really, really high expectations. But then when it came to the changes happening on Giant X, I was like, oh, I don't really know what to expect. Because when we were looking at spring and at winter, it felt like there wasn't necessarily a great synergy between jungle and mid, which is something that build off of communication, and you don't have an English speaking jungler. Might make stuff a little bit more difficult, but you swap it out for another non-English speaking jungler. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say that we are the experts and we know the ins and outs of the behind the scenes of teams, but I didn't know what to expect. But I don't think I expected them to go 0-3 in their first week.
I
Really?
kind of did. I
thought they would win like one game, maybe.
Maybe the
not.
game against SK. That's because they played Heretics, Fnatic, and SK, and I think SK is the only game out of those I would have had them as possible winners. I think it's really interesting to watch, because if you watch Juhan specifically, when he is doing things that you can pre-plan by yourself, he actually looks really solid. Yeah. Like he had a couple of good ganks where he avoided vision control with some clever pathing on the Sejuani, and it's one of those, like, maybe someone's pinged that there's a ward there, but as a jungler in that moment, you can see he's thinking, this is how I get into this lane in the most effective way to make sure the gank comes off, right? But when it becomes much more team coordinated, I think the introduction of him and the Antonio hasn't really excelled. I think for the Antonio, give him some time, right? He's back on the LEC stage after he was here all the way back in like 2014 or something, wasn't he?
No,
if I remember.
No.
Anyway,
I'm pretty sure this is his first LEC split.
Is it the first time?
I was going to say 2014 is like...
Oh, he was sub for Giants. Sorry, not 14. 17 is what I was thinking. He was sub for the actual Giants. But
The actual Giants?
Didn't actually play. My bad. Well, because when Giants was in the LEC, he was sub. But yeah, he's on the LEC stage for the first time. He has a lot of weight on his shoulders, a lot of expectation for him coming in, 7-year veteran of his team, and obviously a big fan base behind him. I can give him a week, right? I can give him a couple. In fact, let's be honest, if we were being kind, we'd give him a year, but that's not going to happen because you have 3 weeks to make it into the playoffs. For me, the big thing with Giant X is how well Jackie's is performing. I think he's played really well, generally. And
good.
I think looking at him for future years is encouraging. I don't think he's, caps light or whatever, but when he first came in, there was a question as to whether he was just a Nico merchant, and, he played at like the first 4 or 5 games, but he continues to show that he has more arrows in his quiver, more strings to his bow. So we'll see where Giant X go.
Wow,
I don't think they're making playoffs.
You're like really good with words.
I don't think Giant X are making playoffs. I think they're going to end like a couple of wins. I expect Vitality to bounce back, though. Even if they seem uncoordinated, I expect that they'll pick up some wins just because they're good players. Like, Kazi was the best AD carry in the league last split. I think if he gets back to that sort of form, in this meta, you just expect to pick up some wins.
We aren't going to be talking about Giant X much longer.
No.
The one thing I was actually also surprised about that I do want to hit on was the BDS 3-0. I was kind of curious about your guys' thoughts on that, because personally, I see Tristana plus Jinx in the same team, and I think that is like the most boosted comp you can play right now. That shit is so OP. Like, you make 2 mistakes into that comp and the game's over. You're just fighting against like the 2 safest, longest range, like highest DPS marksmen of the game. And I don't know like what to think of them, because I feel like they played okay, but also just like that style. Like, once it gets going the way it does, it's really hard to win, or really hard to lose those games, like if you're the opponent. So I'm kind of curious like what the diagnosis on BDS is.
I don't know if like the clip, by the way, from Yankos going, oh, if this Karthus hits level 16, God help us.
Yeah, we're doomed.
Like... And I think that's like literally the perfect representation of what it feels like playing up against Karthus right now. But in general, like BDS, I mean 3-0, right? Like what else can we say?
Yeah.
Well, I think. Sorry. I think that first of all, like, this is the perfect meta for BDS because they've never been the most dominant or aggressive early game team. They're just the kind of team that needs to be even or slightly behind when team fights roll around, when you have your core items, and then that you're so good at playing these team fights, and their synergy is really on point in those areas. So I think a lot of the LEC teams going for these scaling-oriented comps does make a really big difference for them. But I also think they've just been very underrated because they've been sitting just at the 3rd best in the league spot for a while now, and they haven't actually won anything yet, but they're a really solid team. And schedule-wise, I would argue they were supposed to beat both Vitality and Team Heretics based off of what we've seen so far this year. G2 is the one surprise, but then again, it's a G2 that hadn't had any real practice after their MSI break, right? So
yeah,
I think if the drafting and if the balance that we see in League is going to continue going in the same direction, and all these like also scaling champions are continuing to be strong, then it's going to be a really good split for BDS.
Yeah, I think BDS so far looking really solid, and as well with like Medic, what he mentioned in terms of the split being like 3 weeks for you to get into playoffs, like you gotta get going, you gotta hit the ground running. I know that was maybe like a little too aggressive, but you do have to hit the ground running, because if you don't start off with like a super incredible, absolutely fucking insane start, like where'd you end? Cubby, I know you want to talk very briefly on G2, because they are just as good as Heretics right now.
I mean, are they though? I feel like, watching LEC this week, we can have the baby ragers saying, oh, this is not the best gameplay on the planet. Who cares? I don't care if G2's in their best or worst form. For me, this week, like, actually solidifies how good G2 is as a team. Like, watching G2 try to win those games, like, for me, I'm watching these games like, wow, this team really is miles ahead of everyone else. I know they dropped 1 and 2. Like, some of the solutions they have to bounce back in these games, like actually play things out, was so fun to actually watch. I feel like they were way more in these game states than they should have been. Mm-hmm. And like, I know they went 1 and 2, and I'm like, this is the best team in the league. Like, no one else is going to play those mid to late game scenarios nearly as well as like anyone else. Like, no one else can fight G2 on that. It was so fun for me to watch that team lose. I'm not even kidding. Like, it was so close.
Okay. You said it, Cubby. I can't say things like that because I get accused of being biased towards G2, so I'm glad you came out and said it.
Yeah, we can't say that here, any of the LEC talent, but thank you. We appreciate your insight.
I also have to say, like, Medic and me were casting G2 BDS, and it was really funny how the game changed from Broken Blades, like, doing the most stupid stuff and essentially solo losing the entire early game by trolling around, to Broken Blade being the one guy you have to look out for, because if he gets a flank, he's gonna destroy people, because he was like 5k gold up at the end of the game. And the fact that having that start, still being in that position and still being such a threat, I thought was also really interesting and really impressive, because again, this game definitely would have been over way quicker if it was any other opponent.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, G2, we said we'll get Vitality bounce back. G2 will definitely be up there as well. I want to head over into our community questions that we have. These ones are from TimLad5105. I am going to give this one to Broxah, particularly. I would like you to answer this. If bootcamping in other regions level up teams so much, why don't they do it more? I want to say budget, because like that shit's expensive, probably.
No, I don't. I mean, sure, like the organizations have a budget, but like even the like bottom teams are usually very open to sending players on boot camps if they want. I think generally, I mean, there's a few factors that you need to take into account. Like, first of all, the moment you get knocked out, there's a very high chance there's going to be some kind of changes. Like, usually there's a roster change of some sort, whether it's like a player change or a coach change. So players and coaches have like a short break where the organizations and upper management is finding out what to do. And it's just this waiting phase where you figure out who's actually on the team before you can then start planning these kind of boot camps. And then it comes down to how long of a break you actually have, and whether it's better to just build a good routine and a structure in, let's say, Berlin, rather than take all your stuff and go to Korea for a while. I think what you also need to consider is boot camping doesn't give the same value to all teams. Like, even like for me, when we boot camped in Korea the first couple of times on Fnatic in 2017, the Eastern teams really did not want to scrim Europe and North America at the time. Like, we really struggled to get scrims. So we were scrimming like the worst like LPL teams, or we were scrimming like second tier Korean teams, and we had to build our way up essentially. So we knew that the moment we got to play against a half decent team, if we didn't pop off, it was over. Like, nobody would scrim us. But if that game went well, then we could slowly build it up. So you actually need to be there for a while, and you need to play extremely, extremely well to have a chance of getting practice that would be like a lot better than you would see within your own region. I think for Europe, I mean, solo queue in Korea is slightly better for various reasons, but I wouldn't go there just to play solo queue. It would be to play these good teams. For NA, I think going there for solo queue makes a lot more sense, because then there's an argument that there's a queue time and ping and game quality and all that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that always needs to be taken into account. And again, you do have to factor in the fact that once you arrive, there's like a week of jet lag. Once you come back, there's like a week of jet lag. And if you don't have that much time, you need to make sure you get the most out of every day.
Yeah, I feel like that actually also very much answers the second question of, if you get knocked out of a tournament early, why don't they stay and get as much practice as possible? Because building up the routine, going on a break, having new players.
So I think the best way to answer that question would be, imagine if you have a period of time of, let's say, a month. So you have 1 month where you spend 12 plus hours of your day at work or in school, and that's every single day for one entire month. You have like no opportunity to take a rest day, no opportunity to think of anything else. Like, the only thing that's in your mind every single part of your day, and every little thing you do, even when you don't work, is still related to becoming better at work. Like, at some point, your brain and your body just cannot keep it up anymore, and you just have to get out of that cycle for a couple of days or a week to like hit the reset button, and then you can go again. Like, it's just such an intense environment. And I think once those tournaments are over, especially because you're so crushed and devastated from the fact that it's over, and you wanted to achieve more, and you know that these changes I spoke about earlier are coming, getting out of that bubble and just hitting the reset button and then going again, it is an absolute must for a player. That
makes a lot of sense. Thank you. This is why you're on the podcast, right? You're a retired old ex-pro player with some.
Did you just call me old?
No, me. I would never say that. Maybe I think you need to like adjust the volume on your headset. Yeah.
So you're saying there's something wrong with my ears as well?
Bold.
Yeah.
Bold. Yeah.
Bald?
Yes.
No, not bold. Like bold.
Bald, like, you know, like, you're like,
okay.
wow, like you're making
so
these
bold, man.
Yeah, like you're making all these like incredible decisions, and like you're really pushing, you know, the limit. You're playing 20 games of solo queue a day, losing 16 of them. Failed to challenger. Check out Brox's stream if you want to see him lose his mind. Thank you guys so much for joining for this episode of the podcast. We're going to be back again next week, so make sure that you like and subscribe to stay up to date. But also drop any questions down in the comment box below, and we'll get back to you on the segment of community questions. Take care, guys. See you next week.